Okay, good morning friends. Let us start the model 4, that is 8087 co-processor and pin configuration of 8086. Okay, in model 4 we are discussing about the 8087, that is one of the co-processor. The 8086 we are connecting with the other processor, then or more than one processor to the 8086. So how to connect the 8086 with more than one processor, that we are discussing in the model 4. And one of the widely used co-processor called the math co-processor named 8087. Before discussing the design of the co-processor or how to connect 8086 with a co-processor such as math co-processor 8087, we must know the pin configuration of 8086. So before going to the design of co-processor, let us discuss the pin configuration of 8086. Okay, refer this figure. Here you can see the pin configuration of the 8087. It is a 40 pin IC. You can see starting from the pin number 1 is here, pin number 40 is here. It is a dual inline package called the DIC package, where pins are arranged like 1 to 20 in one side and 21 to 40 other side. So that here you can see. So pin number 1 is VSS called as a ground. There are two grounds here called as VSS connected to pin number 1. Another ground here at the pin number 20. Before going to in detail about the pin configuration, here you can see how the pins are divided in the 8086. So there are categories of the signals supported by 8086. There are actually three categories of the signals for the 8086. First one is a common signals, second one minimum mode signal, third one maximum mode signal. So here you can see the maximum mode in the first column, right hand side, from the pin number 21 to pin number 40. You can see 21 to 40. These pins are multiplexed. So maximum mode pins you can see here, starting from reset, ready, test bar, QS1, QS0, S0 bar, S1 bar, S2 bar, lock bar, RQ, GT1, RQ, GTO bar, read bar, minimum, maximum bar, MN, MX bar, BHE, S7, A19, S5, A18, S5, A17, S4, A16, S3, AD15, then VCC. There we have the plus 5 volts we are connecting to the pin number 40. So these pins called as a maximum mode pins and signals. Minimum mode, we have the pins called as a INTA bar, ALE, DEN bar, DT bar, R, then M bar, IO bar, right bar, HLDA and hold. So these are connected from 24 to 31. Minimum mode pins are from 24 to 31. So in minimum mode, the 8086 operating as a minimum mode where there is no other co-processors are connected. You can see how to operate the 8086 minimum mode. If you want to operate, then this minimum bar max, that pin we have to select. The mode is decided by this MN bar, MX bar. Okay, so minimum, if you put 1, if you make a high signal connected to the minimum, then it is the 8086 operate in a minimum mode. There are two modes, minimum mode and maximum mode. In maximum mode, the MN bar, MX bar, that is on pin number 33. The MX you have to connect to the low or grounded. If the MN bar MX connected to ground, then it is operating as maximum mode. If the MN bar MX bar connected to the plus 5 volts, nothing but the high, then it is a minimum mode. So that you can see here in pin number 33. So as I told, these are divided into 3 categories of signals. Common signals means these common signals pins are common to both maximum mode and minimum mode. Let us see what are the common signals. So you can see here AD0 to AD15. So address and data lines. These are bidirectional lines. These lines are multiplex. These lines are meant for both address and data. As AD means A means address, D means data. So AD0 to AD15 means 16-bit. We know that data line of 8086 is 16-bit, so D0 to D15, and address bus of 8086 is a 20-bit. So 16 A0 to A15, and next we are seeing the remaining 4. So total address bus of 8086 is of 20-bit. Already we have discussed in the architecture. So always AD0 to AD5, AD0 to AD15 lines, first it will carry the address. After address are fetched, then the same bus we are using for the sending the data. So that is AD0 to AD15. So here you can see pin number 16 to pin number 2. There you can see the lines called AD0, AD1, AD0, AD1, AD2, AD5. So okay, you can see up to AD10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and pin number 39 AD15. So these pins starting from 16 we have AD0, pin number 2 we have the AD14, AD15 you can see in the right side, that is pin number 39. Okay, then let us see the remaining address lines. As our address line is 20-bit wide, so A16 to A19, and it is multiplexed with status signal called as a S3 and S6. So A16 and A19. So these another 4 address lines. As a address line is of 20, we have seen the 16 bits, the remaining 4 starting from A16 to A19. These are also the output lines and also multiplexed with status lines. We will see what are the status lines. So always it will carry the address, then it will carry the signals of the status lines. So that you can see in the pin number 38, 37, 36, 35. So these are the 4 address and status signals from S3 to S6. Okay, so they are starting from 35, 36, 37 and 38. Okay, now let us see what are the other signals which are common. BHE bar, you can see pin number 34 bar, and multiplex with another status signal called as S7, that is on pin number 34. So BHE bar, this is also the multiplex line used to select the odd bank. This signal is activated by 8086. This is the active low. You can see the bar above the BHE. So BHE stands for bus high enable. Bar status. So data onto the most significant halves of the data bus are getting D8 to D15. That is nothing but the D8 to D15. So data on most significant halves of data bus. So data bus of 16 bit. So starting from D0 to D15. Okay. So what we are doing here, MSB means the 8 bit, higher 8 bit starting from D8 to D15. In the D8 to D15, the 8 bit device connected to upper half of the data bus by using BHE low signal. It is a multiplex with status signal. We are getting 8 bit data device. If you want to connect a peripheral to the upper half of the data bus, then you have to use the BHE signal which is active low. If a BHE is active low means the above MSB 8 bits means D8 to D15 we are using to connect the 8 bit device, a peripheral device. And another signal is of the BHE is a S7. Okay, so that is also the output status signal. So that we are going to see what is a S7. Okay, then pin number, you can see CLK, that is also one of the common signal. The CLK means clock. This clock is used to control the speed of the processor. The speed of the processor is range from 5 to 10 megahertz. 5 to 10 megahertz. This signal should have the duty cycle of 33.33%. It must maintain the duty cycle of nearly 33.33%. Okay, so that is called as a CLK pin. That is also the common. Next we have the reset. This is used to make the computer to reboot or to terminate the process of a system. So reset is a active high signal. For a reliable reset operation, the signal should be maintained high for at least 50 microseconds after the power is switched on. When the microprocessor is switched on, minimum 50 microseconds you have to hold the reset at high. Okay, so another normal reset operation. So we have to hold the reset signal high for at least 4 clock cycles. Upon reset operation, instruction pointer is cleared and CS register is loaded with 4FH. Okay, after this the physical address is generated by 8086 is FFF0H. So after each reset operation, the location should contain a suitable monitor program. One more pin of a common signal is a ready. This is the we use the ready is actually active high signal ready. So that ready you can see in pin number 22. After 21 we have discussed about the 21 reset, then we have the 22 pin, that is a ready. What happens, the peripherals what we're connecting to the 8086, these peripherals operate in very slow. Example is a printer. So printer you can see which are operating very slow compared to the speed of the CPU. To synchronize the speeds of the CPU with the peripherals, we require the ready signal. It is used to synchronize the speed between the peripheral and processor. So when the peripheral is slower, it will generate a signal, or the ready signal is low, you have to make it low. It is an active high signal, you have to make it low to make the CPU to wait. The CPU have to wait till the process of the peripheral have to match with the speed of the CPU. So still that the ready signal have to be lowered or active low. So that generates a wait signal, and that wait signal is given to the CPU. So this is used to synchronize the peripherals which are slower devices with the CPU. Then comes the VCC. You can see the VCC at the pin number 40. This is used to supply the voltage to the 8086, that is of plus 5 volts. Okay, you can see the ground. Already I discussed pin number 1 and pin number 20. You can see the two VSS. These are the two grounds. We have the two grounds in a 8086. One ground is supply ground and second ground is a circuit ground. Supply ground and circuit ground both have to be grounded to have the proper operation. So already discussed about the MN bar, MX bar. So again I am discussing here how to make the minimum mode and maximum mode. What have to do, the MN have to connect it to the high to operate the 8086 in the minimum mode. For that we have to connect the MN bar, MX bar pin, that is pin number 33, to the plus VCC. Then it will act as a minimum mode. If you want the 8086 to operate in a maximum mode, then this pin 33 have to be connected to the ground. So based upon the connection to the plus VCC and ground, you can select the mode, minimum mode or maximum mode. Minimum mode means only one 8086 is operating. Maximum mode means we are connecting one more co-processor to the 8086. You can see NMI at the pin number 17. That is a non-maskable interrupt. Non-maskable means it is a we cannot disable by the programmer. It is a non-maskable means we can't disable by the programmer. It has very highest priority compared to the other interrupts such as INTR. This is a vectored interrupt with predefined type number 2. This signal is edge triggered. By using edge triggered we can activate the NMI, non-maskable interrupt. That is on pin number, you can see in the pin number 17. Then we have the INTR pin number 18. There you can see the INTR, that is on pin number 18, called as a interrupt request. INTR stands for interrupt request. The INTR pin is also the active high. If there is no bar, means it is active high. So it is a maskable interrupt. We can enable and disable as we want by the programmer. It has lower priority compared to the non-maskable interrupt, NMI. This is the level triggered interrupt. Okay, we have the two types of interrupts, edge triggered and the level triggered. So these are about the pins for the, these are the signals for the common. Okay, for this common means for minimum and maximum both we require these pins. Then coming to the pins which are for the minimum mode signals, let us see the signals and pins supported by the minimum mode. So in minimum mode you can see we have the HOLD on pin number 31, HALD pin number 30, right bar and M bar, IO bar, 27 DT bar by R bar, 26 done bar, 25 ALE, 24 INTA bar. So these are the some of the pins for the minimum mode. We have to discuss the minimum mode pins and then let us see the maximum mode pins. So in minimum mode pins, the pin number M by IO bar you can see on pin number 28. So M stands for memory by IO bar means IO means input output. Whether the processor fetching the data from memory or whether the 8086 fetching the data from input output peripherals. So based upon this you have to select the M by I0 bar. So we record a decoder and the decoder operation where we have the input output read write operation. Simply if the data present in a memory and we have the read and write operation, then M have to be connected to the high, as the M is a active high. If you want the data or you want to perform the input output read write operation and the data present in input output peripherals, then IO bar have to be active low. So if you have made the active low IO bar, then the data data for read and write operation is performed. If the M is connected to the high, then we are getting the data and read and write operation are performing on memory. So there is a M by I0 bar. Then coming to the read bar is a output signal of the 8086. This is a control signal used to read the data from the peripheral. Then we have the write, that is a reverse operation called the write bar. This is an also output signal of 8086. This is a control signal used to write the data into the peripheral device. INTA bar, that is on pin number 24. So this is a INTA. A means interrupt acknowledgement. So interrupt acknowledgement. A stands for acknowledgement. It is active low and output signal. When the microprocessor is interrupted by an external device on INTR pin to get the service of the CPU, 8086 sends out a low on interrupt acknowledgement. That is INTA bar line. A response to the signal. Okay, so that is INTA. It is a response to the INTR. That is the active high signal. R means request, interrupt request, and A means interrupt acknowledgement. So that we have seen INTA bar. That is on pin number 24. Then coming to the hold, that is on pin number 31. So hold is a input pin to the 8086. When microprocessor is executing the instructions. At the end of every machine cycle, it checks the status of hold. A low on hold pin will not disturb the execution of the current program, but when a high on the hold pin is detected, it tristate the address bus, data bus and control bus and enters into the hold state. At this point, the 8086 suspends or stops or terminates all its actions. Are getting? So what we are doing at the end of every machine cycle, we are checking the status of the hold. If the hold is high, is encountered, then it have to, the C8086 have to stop its all activities. So that is the meaning. And then again, if you want to resume the operation of the 8086, we have to check for the low on the hold pin. If it is high, the 8086 will stop or suspend. When 8086 detects hold as a low pin, then it will resume the normal operation. Hold is low, it will resume. Hold is high, it will stop or suspend 8086. This was an example of the hold. So one more pin called HLDA, that you can see pin number 30. HLDA. It is also the multiplex with the RQ bar by GT1 bar. You can see HLDA and the RQ bar by GT1 bar, that is on pin number 30. Both are multiplexed. So HLDA means hold acknowledge. So this is used to check the one more controller called the DMA controller. Once the 8086 enters into the hold state, the 8086 informs the DMA, dynamic memory access. DMA stands for dynamic memory access controller, that it has entered into the hold state by sending the high on HLDA. HLDA will be high and it given to the DMA controller. One more IC is there that is used to control all the memory read-write operations, called the DMA controller. So it will inform the DMA controller that the 8086 suspended its operation. The DMA sends out a low on hold pin indicating 8086 that DMA controller has completed the data transfer. So data transfer, if it is completed, then it will send the low for the hold pin. As we know, when we encounter the hold, the low means it will resume the normal operation back by the 8086. One more you can see ALE, that is on pin number 25, and it is multiplexed with one more maximum mode signal called the QSO. Okay, so ALE and QSO both are multiplexed on pin number 25. So ALE is a minimum mode signal. ALE stands for address latch enable. This is an output signal. This signal is used to enable the external latch such as 74LS373 to hold the address sent by 8086. The addresses which are sent by the CPU or 8086 are latched and hold by 74LS373. The external latch along with the ALE signal provides the demultiplexing of the bus. Okay, then we have the DEN bar, that is on pin number 26. So DEN bar means this is an output signal. This signal enables the transceiver. A dedicated IC we are using called the transceiver controller called the 8286. Please remember 8286 a transceiver. The transceiver are used for buffering the data bus. For read and write operation, this signal should be made low by 8086. DEN means data enable. D stands for data and EN means enable. It is a bar means it is a active low. When we make the active low, then data enables from the 8286. When this signal is high, the transceiver is disabled. Means the data transfer and reception both are disabled or stopped. When it is a low, then we have the data transfer and reception. So that you can see here in the figure. There you can see a table. One more pin called the DT bar R bar. This is an output signal. This signal controls the direction of the data transfer, means whether to receive the data or whether to transfer the data. Data transfer and data receive is controlled by this DT by R bar. Okay, we require both DEN bar and DT by R bar. These two signals are required for data enable and whether to transmit or whether to receive. So in this table you can see DEN bar and DT by R bar. When both are 0, data received. As I told, DEN is an active low, means we have to make 0, we have to put 0. Okay, data and DT by R bar. R means receive, T means transmit. So receive is a low signal, means if we put 0, then data are received. Okay, so this is the minimum. So again we want data enable, so again we have to put here 0, DT by R bar. We require the transmission. So instead of R bar, so DT, T is a high signal. You can see T is a high. So we have to put 1 here. So 0, 1 makes data transmitted. When DEN is 1, as I told, it is disabled. Okay, so no data transfer. So these are the signals of the minimum mode operation. Now let us see the maximum mode operations of the 8086. Maximum mode means we are connecting a processor 8086 with a co-processor, which is used to help the 8086. So pins of the third category called the 8086 maximum mode signals. Let us see one by one. RQ 0 bar by GTO bar. So here you can see this is a pin. The 8086 and co-processor shares the common bus as shown in figure. In this figure, we have a common system bus. So this figure you can see here. We have the system bus, and this system bus has to be shared by the 8086 and also co-processor. How to share? To share, if the co-processor requires the system bus, then you have to give a RQ request signal. There is a low signal to the 8086. The 8086 have to give the permission or grant the permission to use this system bus by sending again a low signal to the co-processor. The co-processor takes the system bus and activate the system bus by use of the co-processor. After use, again it have to give back the control of the system bus to the 8086. For this operation, the RQ0 bar by GTO bar, these two control signals are used. 8086 has RQ0 bar by GTO bar and one more RQ 1 bar by GT1 bar to facilitate connection of two coprocessors in the event of simultaneous request signals on both the pins. The RQ0 bar has higher priority compared to the RQ1. If we have the more than two coprocessors and to whom the system bus have to grant the permission by the 8086, that is decided by these two control signals. As I told, RQ0 bar has the highest priority. Okay, then let us see QS0 bar and QS1 bar. These are the output signals of the 8086 and input to the coprocessor. These signals indicate to the coprocessor the nature of operation performed by the 8086, so that the coprocessor can repeat the same operation as performed by the 8086. The 8086, what the operation it is performing, the same operation had to be followed or performed by the coprocessor which is connected to the 8086. So that we can see here through the figure. So here you can see these two the pins, and here you can see the system bus again figure. Here we are discussing the 8086, what the task it is performing. The same task had to be performed by the coprocessor. How it will be decided? That is, these are the two signals. You can see here QS0 bar and QS1 bar. These are the two output signals of 8086. You can see these are the output signals of 8086, but these are the inputs to the coprocessor. You can see the unidirectional direction of the arrows. So what is the QS0 bar and QS1 bar? In this table, here you can see the table QS0, QS1. If both are 0, 0, so no operation by the 8086 is not doing any work. So coprocessor is also will not do anything. If the 8086 is not working or it is not doing anything, means the coprocessor also is not doing anything. So that is a 0, 0. If the QS0 is 0, QS1 is 1, then first byte of instruction is drawn from the queue. Order to discuss, all the instructions are held by the instruction queue in the architecture. That is called as a pipelining process. The fetching of the instructions from the queue one by one and the holding of the instructions before the decoding and execution is called as a pipelining process. So that is the first byte of instruction is drawn from the queue. So that is the meaning of the 0 and 1. If we have the QS01, QS1 is 0, there is no instruction present in a queue. That means empty queue. If both are 1, byte of the instruction is drawn from the queue. Subsequent means next byte of the instruction is drawn from the queue. So these are the two control signals of the maximum mode operation. Next, let us see the status line signals called the S0 bar, S1 bar, S2 bar. These status lines are used to reflect the type of the operation carried out by the microprocessor. These signals are connected to the bus controller which generates the control signals. So let us see the again we have this figure. Refer this figure. Here you can see the system bus. Refer the table. You have the three status signals. All are active loop signals, means we have to connect to the ground or active loop. So SO bar, S1 bar, S2 bar. So to refer this table, total 7 different operations are performed by these status line signals. So the microprocessor operations are carried out by selecting these status signals. So let us see how these status signals are works. Refer the table. So 8086 we can see connected to the 8288, that is a bus controller. Here we require the bus controller. Through this bus controller we are selecting what the operations are performed by the microprocessor. So refer again SO bar, S1 bar, S2 bar. All three status signals are 0. Interrupt acknowledgement, that is INTA bar here. So this is the first, here this one, both are same. So 0, 0, 1 input output read. So the input output read operation you can perform by making 0, 0, 1. If you put 0, 0, 1, S0 bar, S1 bar, S2 bar 1, both are 0, 0, then we have the input output read. Only the read operation is performed from input and output. Okay, then 0, 1, 0, here you can see 0, 1, 0, so input output write operation. Okay, then 0, 1, 1, here then it is a halt. 1, 0, 0, code access. 1, 0, 1, memory read. 1, 1, 0, memory write. 1, 1, 1, all are 1, then it is passive. So all these pins are highlighted here of the status signals and their operation. Okay, INTA bar, IORDC bar, IOWTC bar, AIOWTC bar, MR means memory read, DC bar, MW, M means memory, W means write, TC bar, AMWTC bar means passive. So these are the three status signals which are very important, which decides the operation of the 8086 by using this 8288 bus controller. Okay, then we have the test, one more signal called as the test signal. This is an output signal of the coprocessor and an input to the 8086 as shown in the diagram. So when the test signal is low, then it is activated the test. When the test signal is high, the 8086 enter into the idle state. The 8086 checks the test signal for remaining in the idle state till this signal becomes low. Thus the 8086 is synchronized with the coprocessor. This is the output signal. When the coprocessor is performing an operation, this signal is made high to indicate 8086 is to enter into idle state. Are you getting? Here the coprocessor is working, the CPU is busy to perform some task and it is unable to take the next task. So at that time it will make the 8086 to enter into idle state. Means there is no work from the 8086 and all the activities and operations are performed by coprocessor. After the completion of the operation from the coprocessor, we have to generate the low signal to the test. So in that case, it will come out from the idle state. For the 8086, to check this signal, it must be in the idle state. To enter the idle state, the programmer must include a instruction called as a FWAIT. So that I am going to show here. FWAIT is one of the instruction that has to be used by the programmer, which is used to make the 8086 into the idle state. In the idle state, the 8086 performs no operation other than checking the test signal. Continuously it is going to check the test signal, and it will be in idle mode, means there is no operation or task are performed by the 8086. All the operation or tasks are performed by the coprocessor. When the test signal is received, the low test signal is received by the coprocessor, it will come out from the idle state and it will resume the original activity. So that is one of the importance of the test signal. So coming to the one of the important control signal of the maximum mode is a lock bar. So lock bar is a output signal, and it is used in multi-processor environment. Means we have the more than one coprocessor, whereas multiple processor can be connected to a common resource such as global memory. We have the two types of memories. One is a local memory that here you can see here, and one more is a global memory. Global memory is a common resource, and it is required by both the systems. You can see here this is the one of the processor, this is the one of the second processor. Means this configuration is called as a multiprocessing, where we have the two processors, 8086, and again here you can see the 8086. There are two processors, and these two processors are connected to the bus arbiter, a hardware which controls the memory connection to the global memory. So 8086 at once it will connect to this global memory. For that we have to lock it. So when it is locked, means it will accessing this global memory by only one processor, and again we have the lock. So then the second processor can use the global memory. So simply the lock signal is activated to control the connection of the global memory to the processor. So for that we have to require to take the permission for the same. Okay, so that is a lock. One of the instruction is used called the lock, LOCK, move AX, comma, square bracket 1 2 3 4 H, close the square bracket. So that is one of the example or instruction of the lock. So we have to prefix the LOCK lock, so it will lock the global memory to the one system. So these are the different pin configuration. So only one processor can access the global memory at a time. So to make this, we require this lock control signal. Okay, so that is, these are the discuss about the minimum mode here and the maximum mode signals. So this completes the different pins supported by 8086. Again, in summary, I am discussing. So these are divided into three categories. Common means minimum mode and maximum mode. The common signals are common to both the modes. Then we have seen the minimum mode signals and how to make the mode selection, and we have seen the maximum mode signals. Okay, so these are the minimum mode signals, here you can see, and we have seen the maximum mode signals. These are the minimum mode signals. Then we have seen the maximum mode signals. So go through it. So QS0, QS1, Q status, no operation, first byte upcode, empty, subsequent bytes, here we have seen. Okay, so we have seen the importance of these two. Then we have seen the lock bar. Okay, so in next class let us discuss the coprocessors, different coprocessors, and the one of the important are the 8087 coprocessor in the next lecture. Okay, thank you.